When it comes to adulthood and working life, I often see two sides of the spectrum portrayed on social media. So one is the romanticization of hyper-productive corporate life or entrepreneurship. So you see lots of long hours, maybe a lack of personal life, lots of blazers and skyscrapers, you know, the aesthetic. And the other end of the spectrum is really just rejecting the 9-to-5 and wanting to live a more slow-paced, quiet life, maybe out in a cottage somewhere picking strawberries from your backyard garden. While I believe that lots of people do enjoy the concept of working hard, being ambitious, achieving their goals, there's something really exciting and motivating about that. I think that the fact that a lot of people have felt underappreciated and undercompensated by their employers as of late has resulted in a lot of cottage and strawberries type fantasies. The dream of a quiet, slow-paced life has become a new aspiration for a lot of people, and not necessarily just a slow-paced life, but a life on their own terms, doing what they want to do when they want to do it.
That's heresy, my friend.
But unfortunately, most of us simply cannot afford to reject the 9-to-5 lifestyle in this way. And while lots of people did leave their jobs during the Great Resignation that took place during the pandemic, not everyone had the opportunity to do so. Thus, the term quiet quitting has begun to gain a lot of steam, a lot of popularity on platforms like TikTok.
The concept of quiet quitting is making some very loud noise on TikTok.
So what is quiet quitting and how does it provide relief for those that are overworked and underpaid? All of that and more in today's video, so make sure that you keep on watching. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Arena. I'm a real estate agent in Oregon, and here on my channel we cover a wide variety of topics ranging from prefab tiny homes to the housing market to the workforce and the economy at large. I do also love to share vlogs documenting my experience as a real estate agent, sort of taking you behind the scenes. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, definitely be sure to subscribe and turn on your bell notifications so that you never miss a future upload. So quiet quitting, let's talk about it. I first heard about this on YouTube actually. I do have a TikTok, but for some reason, I just can't ever seem to catch these trends as they're trending on TikTok. I always hear about them from commentary channels on YouTube, like after the trend has already been popular for a while. So quiet quitting is essentially a term that is describing just doing the bare minimum at work, not overworking yourself, not taking on extra responsibilities without extra pay, just doing what's in your job description, nothing more and nothing less. I don't really like the term quiet quitting because it doesn't, in my opinion, I don't think it accurately explains like what the trend is. Really, it's just people that are refusing to bend over backwards for their employers. They're not going to go above and beyond anymore. They're not going to come early. They're not going to stay late. They're not going to answer emails or pick up the phone after 5 p.m.
Working overtime? No thanks. Late night emails? Ignore those. Pick up an extra project to get ahead? Hard pass.
The argument is that doing this will help you achieve a greater work-life balance and will help you to detach your self-worth from your productive output.
Your worth as a person is not defined by your labor.
Your worth as a person is not defined by your labor.
I would also say that quiet quitting and the people that engage in it are essentially protesting against hustle culture and against going the extra mile without ever seeing any rewards for doing so. I haven't experienced this personally in the way that a lot of people are discussing it on TikTok, but I have had people close to me in my life that have been given new titles at work, a ton of new responsibilities, but there was absolutely no extra pay or benefits that came out of that, just a lot of stress and anxiety as a result of the extra workload. So I completely understand where people are coming from on this, and I'm looking forward to elaborating on the quiet quitting trend, the good and the bad in our discussion today. If you see me glancing over to the side, by the way, it's because I have my laptop with my notes and I simply cannot memorize everything that I want to say. So what I want to start off by talking about is what triggered the quiet quitting movement right now. Even though like this isn't a brand new idea, people were slacking off at work before this trend, but like what triggered it in the context of like 2022. So quiet quitting actually does stem from the Great Resignation movement that gained steam during the pandemic. I do have a video on that I filmed last year if you want to check it out so that you can hear my thoughts on it. But like I said previously, this definitely isn't like a brand new idea. Most recently, a quiet quitting type trend actually first originated in China. It was called the lying flat movement, or Tangping. Lying flat was a movement in 2021, and it was really a movement about young people protesting and rejecting the idea of being overworked without any real hope for adequate pay or career advancement.
The internet in China has been awash with the phrases Tangping, which means lying flat, and more recently, bai lan, which means let it rot. This has coincided with many young people in China becoming increasingly frustrated with both their personal and professional lives.
As far as the relevance in America, specifically in the year 2022, is that people are feeling really tired and burnt out following the pandemic, and are also feeling really unencouraged and disappointed while they watch inflation completely skyrocket, while their wage either stays the same or increases like barely enough to keep up with the rate of inflation. It's a tough catch-22 because as an employee, you want to be paid the most amount of money while doing the least amount of work, but as an employer, you want to pay the least amount of money while getting the most amount of work out of your employees. But honestly, I think that employees just are not being incentivized to work hard, and it's especially like a major gut punch when you've been loyal to a company for a long time and then they bring a new person in and that new person is getting paid the same or more than you are, even though they're literally brand new. That's why company loyalty is just like such a terrible idea in the modern age. I want to make a whole separate video about that, but yeah, people just, there's no reason for them to put in all that hard work. It's not being recognized and it's not being compensated fairly. Now, for every action, there is a reaction, and we often see the opposites of popular trends become popular after that initial trend has run its course. And I think that anti-work, the Great Resignation, quiet quitting, I don't dream of labor, all of that jazz, I think it all fits under the same umbrella, is a direct result of extreme messaging surrounding hustle culture. In America, there's this really heavy emphasis on the pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality. There's, you know, the American dream. I've talked about this on the channel before. It is a major aspiration, especially for people that are coming from outside of the country to live here. Speaking as an immigrant and as a child of immigrants also, really just the idea of the fact that you can become whoever you want, you can achieve whatever you want as long as you just work hard enough is extremely attractive and motivating. And it's not surprising that a lot of motivational speakers really drive this point home. And I want to be clear, there's absolutely nothing wrong with working hard, achieving your goals, having huge ambitions. I think that that's the wonderful thing about living in America is there are a lot of different career paths that you can pursue. There's a lot of freedom in that regard. And I do think that if you work hard and put in the hours, you can achieve something really great. But there's always an extreme. When you have something good, there is always a group of people that takes it to the absolute other end of the spectrum. With the rise of social media, we've seen a heavy emphasis not just on high-paying like corporate jobs, but also on entrepreneurship by big personalities like Gary Vee.
How much time did you have for yourself on Saturday and Sunday that was not working every minute? Tell me the truth.
A lot.
You spent more downtime on not your career this weekend than I did in my entire 20s combined.
Young people are sold the narrative that if they just put in the hours and work really hard, they can become these super successful millionaires. I'm sure you're familiar with the term hustle culture if you are on the internet like I am. It has been everywhere these past couple of years, but essentially it's an idea that promotes work over all other areas of your life. So I have it written here as a romanticization of working long hours at the expense of your health and your personal life. As a result of lockdowns during the pandemic, though, a lot of people began rethinking their overall career path and what they want to do with their life long term. People were really sitting down and thinking, what am I working so hard for? Like legitimately, like what am I working towards at the end of the day?
COVID was that ultimate reset. COVID was that moment where people started to ask a bigger question. What do I want for my life? Do I want to continue working the way that I have? Or do I want something different?
A lot of the hustle culture messaging, I think, promotes the end destination rather than the actual journey of getting there. So if you have to be unhappy for many, many years, it's gonna all be worth it at the end when you get that thing that you really want. And I think that that's the main problem, not the promotion of working hard, which I think is a good thing, but the postponing of your happiness and of your health until you get to that goal that you've set for yourself. If you'd like a separate video diving deep into hustle culture and the anti-work movement, I'd love to make that for you. But for now, let's focus on the good news and the bad news about quiet quitting specifically. As far as the good news about quiet quitting, it really does promote letting go of perfectionism and overachievement without proper compensation, which I think is important, and it can be really freeing for somebody to let go of all the extra meetings, the extra work, the picking up phone calls when you're supposed to be relaxing and spending time with your family. If you are not seeing career advancement, if you're not seeing compensation come from all that extra work, why would you do all that extra work? It also attempts to achieve work-life balance by refusing to put work above all the other areas of your life. And then, like I've already said, it's about learning to define your worth not by your productivity and your job title, but by other things that you enjoy doing in your life, other titles that you hold, whether you are married, you have children, you have friends that you want to spend time with. There are so many other aspects of our life that we oftentimes put on hold because of our work. So I think that quiet quitting is really giving people the freedom to make time for the other things that are important to them in their life. However, I do think that there are also some pretty major downsides to quiet quitting as well. I don't think it's the best solution long term because you really, at the end of the day, are not engaged or fulfilled by the work that you're doing. And I think that that is a recipe for unhappiness and disappointment later on in life. You will also most likely be forfeiting promotions and career advancement opportunities, which will most likely result in career stagnation. Another huge downside, probably one of the biggest ones that I see with quiet quitting that I've heard a lot of other creators talk about, is that when an economic downturn hits, you are going to be the first one out the door. Because you don't necessarily stand out among the crowd of the other employees working at your company, you're not really going above and beyond, there's not going to be any reason to keep you on when a company is having to make some necessary layoffs. I also watched a really great YouTube video where I can't remember his name, but I will put it on the screen and I'll link it in the description box below as well. But this person was talking about his experience with quiet quitting, and he had mentioned that even though, you know, he felt justified in the quiet quitting that he was doing, and if you listen to his story, it really was tough. Like, he was not compensated for all the extra work that he was doing. But he said that in the process of his quiet quitting, of just doing the bare minimum, he constantly had like this stress and anxiety that his boss was mad at him for not doing the same amount of work as before. And there was this constant fear that he was going to get fired. I don't think that you want to live in that stress and anxiety and that fear and concern all the time. So I think quiet quitting can be a stepping stone to something more meaningful, but it's not a long-term solution for the rest of your career. You should feel engaged and interested in what you're doing, at least just for your own fulfillment and well-being. And that doesn't mean that you need to be an entrepreneur. As much as I love the message of entrepreneurship, I don't think that it's for everyone. So whether that's starting your own business or just switching companies or maybe even switching industries, that path looks different for everyone. But I think it's really important to hone in on what would be the most fulfilling to you and what makes sense for your lifestyle, and pursue that and go above and beyond in something that you actually care about. I think living a life of mediocrity and apathy, even if you do feel justified in that, just will not bring you the happiness that you're seeking. After all of my thoughts and research, that's the conclusion that I've arrived at for myself personally, but definitely let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think quiet quitting is a perfectly acceptable way to just kind of continue on, or do you think that it's a bad idea? I want to hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. If you'd like to see more of my life behind the scenes, definitely follow me over on Instagram at ArenaD. And of course, you guys know that I am a real estate agent here in the state of Oregon. If you or anyone you know have any buying, selling, or investing needs, all of my contact information is in the description box down below. I'd love to hear from you and help you achieve your home goals. Other than that, I will see you next week for a brand new video. Bye!